Hello, my name is Lyn Dennis. I'm a member of the Lummi Nation and the Tahltan Band of British Columbia, and also a filmmaker myself. And I'm very excited today to have Shannon Kring and also Phyllis Young, who have been extremely involved with this remarkable film that we have here. And it's called End of the Line, the Women of Standing Rock. And so please, Shannon, let us know who you are, and then we'll go on to Phyllis.
My name is Shannon Kring. I am a director producer who specializes in documentaries dealing with human rights abuses and social justice, and love what I do. And I'm so grateful to know Phyllis.
Phyllis.
Mini Tahiawi Hemachapi, na Mini Yuha Najiwi Hemachapi. I'm woman who stands by the water and woman who loves the water. Those are my given names by my family and my people, my community, for our life struggle. My name is Phyllis Young, my American name, and my background. I was the coordinator for the Ocheti Shakoi camp, requested by the tribal council of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. And so I am co-founder of Women of All Red Nations in 1978, have been an activist for our land, the Black Hills, water rights, and women's rights, so and children. So I was also the board member for 15 years for the National Museum of the American Indian in Washington, D.C. I served one term as the chair of that board and helped to build that incredible living museum in Washington, D.C. I served as a council member for the Standing Rock Sioux tribe and was the coordinator for the camp. I am a founding member of the MIT Fellowship, which is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which is the arm of military technology. So that's pretty much my background. I live on the North Dakota side of Standing Rock. I live on the river and very much a part of the camp history that has been made.
Thank you very much, Phyllis. That's quite a background, and we in Indian country appreciate all that you've done for all of us. And Shannon, I would like to know what was your inspiration for this film as a director?
Well, I've wanted to make a film about these topics for a long time, and Standing Rock was a great opportunity to look at things like forced sterilization and the boarding school atrocities and the medical system abuses and all of these things that most Americans do not know. And I felt really compelled to go to Standing Rock when I saw the horrendous footage that was being released, largely because people were sharing on their social media. This was really a remarkable event in that it was people telling their own stories in real time. And I was living and working in Honduras at that time and was seeing all of this. And I didn't even feel like I had a choice. I felt like I absolutely must go. And part of that is because LaDonna Brave Bull Allard had issued a call as well, because normally I would question if I had a place to be there as someone who looks very white and does not come from that community. But LaDonna stressed the importance of people standing with them from all around the world. And when she put out the call, people came from everywhere.
Now, Phyllis, in terms of your involvement at Standing Rock, it sounds like you were one of the key leaders involved with that effort. What was the feeling for you being at that camp?
It was nothing that I had expected. It was more than that. And so having been an activist all of my life and was a plaintiff against Union Carbide in 1980 in the Black Hills to keep uranium mining out, and we prevailed. Plaintiff against the taking of the water and a coal slurry pipeline, the Etsy pipeline to Louisiana. In 1980, we prevailed in doing that. And we had an international survival gathering in 1980 with all of the sustainable developments that were coming along. And we also knew that we were in a national sacrifice area. So all of my life, I've been fighting the corporations, and we formed the Cowboys and Indians Alliance in the 1980s in South Dakota, the CIA of our own. So incredible partnerships at Ground Zero in South Dakota or the Black Hills. So coming home and always being vigilant, we were aware of the pipelines that were coming down from the north. And so in 1978, we formed the women's arm of the American Indian movement to fight sterilization and to fight all of the issues of our water. And so it's a continuing it's a continuing work and struggle that there were 4 pipelines coming, and that we were vigilant since 1977 to 2007. We were opposed to the Northern Border gas line, which has gone under the Missouri River and is in violation because it was abandoned at some point, and on. But that set the right of way for the ensuing pipelines. And then there was Keystone, who went north of Bismarck and down into South Dakota, still affecting our people on Flandu and Siston. And so the third pipeline was Keystone XL. And that came with a lot of concern regarding the international relationships and the boundaries of the water, Canada and the United States. So we marched and we protested, and we had hearings in South Dakota, and we made our points in our march to Washington, D.C. And we were blessed because President Obama denied the permit for Keystone XL. So, which Keystone XL later revived their struggle and came back again through Cheyenne River at another angle. But still, the issue was the right of way that was in violation. So we're the belly of the monster. We're the last of strongholds that lived in the center of America. And so for them to take us on, they knew it, but they also know who we are. So when DAPL was coming and they were riding piggyback on Northern Borders right away, we prepared. And so while I was on tribal council, we fought for pipelines until 2012 to 15, and we let them know. So in 2015, we notified the Army Corps that we were creating a tolling fine of 5 million a day, which was enacted on August 6th of 2015, where it is tolling, and it's now in excess of $15 billion. So
Wow.
we've created that paper trail as well as our footprint, and under our code violation of our territory, we issued a fine of 500 million to the company and 1 million to the individuals, and that is still on the record. And so when they came, they were coming anyway, DAPL, they always said, you didn't have a position, you didn't have a position that said, no, we couldn't come there, but we did. We had a resolution from 2007 that no pipelines would come through our territory. So, so those 4 pipelines were part of my job, duty, obligation as a tribal council member. And I stayed till the last dog was hung in my term. So when I was leaving, I thought I was going to go retire in Taos and write a few books and relax, and not. I was asked to continue with the contract to fight DAPL, and that's all it said. So continued to lead the charge in opposition, and LaDonna has always been a professional in our system. She was the historian, she was a genealogist, and she was a staff member with the Tribal Historic Preservation Office, which was my daughter Washdewi Young's work for 13 years. And we fought the pipelines together as a individual, as a mother, grandmother, as an official of the tribe, and off and on continuing the path, the struggle. So that was my involvement. And then when on April 1st of 2016, LaDonna coordinated a walk and a move to Sacred Stone. And so we did the pomp and circumstance of the charge, which is the drum and the song of the offensive move of our warriors. We did that ceremony, and every day was ceremony and prayer. And so on April 1st, we went, all of us went, every sector of our community, children on bicycles and walking, running spiritually, and horseback riders, and like 200 or 300 cars from every community on Standing Rock. It was our internal move to create a camp, which is a status that Standing Rock has, independent from and sovereign from the Indian Reorganization Act. We are not a nation under the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934. We had the previous camp against the Army Corps on the South Dakota side, which is the Mad Bear Camp. And from that federal district court came the designation of 18 sacred sites on Standing Rock, and Sacred Stone is one of them. And the turtle that was within the Ocheti Shakoi camp is another one. So we have designated sacred sites, and that path where DAPL came through is one of them also, and they desecrated 26 of 27 graves. So we moved into Sacred Stone and created the camp, and it was the young people from Cheyenne River who immediately responded from the second council fire, and Joe White Eyes, Jaslyn Charger, and Joy Brown put up a teepee, and they started their little camp, and that was the beginning of Sacred Stone. So people started calling and wanted to donate food, and we mobilized all of the families on Standing Rock to hold their birthday parties and celebrations there, so that we could have ongoing feeds and birthday parties and cake for all the campers that were coming. So it was our own people that set up that in April. And by August 10th, we had to move over to the other side of the river, outside the boundary, but the taken area is ours still. We still lease it to the Army Corps. And by then there were 10,000 people. We never anticipated, and we didn't know that there would be 3,000 veterans coming in November. So by December, we had over 13,000 people in the cold of winter under the blessings of the Oyate, the Wakia Oyate, the Thunder Beings. It brought in over 30 countries and 416 tribal nations that came from everywhere with all of their flags. And so we had a flag boulevard as we were going in to the camp all along. We start putting them up. We didn't know that we would have 416, that we almost didn't have room for those flags, but very honorable and dignified. And then we had companies that start bringing food by the semi-load, and then every kind of donation. It overwhelmed us, took our communication center, which was the big, massive military tent that we set up for our communications. And we ended up having all of the donations in there. So we had to set up Facebook Hill, and someone brought a big digital operating Wi-Fi setup. So everyone who came, there were all walks of life. There were former NASA personnel, scientists from all over. There was a former, his father was a former physicist that helped develop the bomb, and very interesting lives that you think that it's a glory for them when they have that kind of background. It's not. They were devastated human beings. And so we had Harney, who at Harney Peak, we had his descendant, and he brought the Black Elk family, and together he turned over the Harney name to the Black Elk family. So in the Black Hills, Harney Peak is now Black Elk Peak. So it's a place of pilgrimage for us, and one of the sites that our children go and visit every season, every year. So very meaningful. We had Custer's granddaughter. There are no more heirs for Custer. And she's the last one, and she brought her granddaughter. We reconciled with her. We heard their stories, and we have an ongoing relationship with her, and we'll continue. We have a lot of interesting things that happen over a wide range, and I want to give special recognition to Myron Dewey, who is Shoshone Paiute from Nevada. They're burying him tomorrow. And incredible, because I am so awestruck by being able to do this interview over digital magic, I call it. And he brought that. He brought that drone. He defended us. He defended himself. and got his case dismissed because of that drone and that, I call it digital democracy, that no one could question the evidence in that. So remarkable life that he shared with us, and he is the director of Awake. And so I send my family's condolences and praise and honor for his life, that he shared it with us, and his knowledge. And a number of people left from Standing Rock to attend the ceremonies and the funeral. I have my own family funeral. My sister-in-law passed away at the same time, so I'm home here handling that, my husband's sister. So, but
And our prayers go out to you. Our prayers go out to you.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
So I just think that the most glorious moment for me was when the 2,000 veterans were coming, and that coincided with President Obama's announcement that the permit for DAPA was denied. So those were glorious when you saw all the lights, and they had a drone on the cars that were pulling in from all over the country, and those were Veterans for Peace and a number of military supporters. And so that was a most glorious time, December 4th of 2016. And we're hoping to have a gathering of those supporters at some point. And then to have the announcement was also a fleeting moment, because we knew that what was coming in January, we knew that there would be a new presidency, and we knew that it was a fleeting moment that we had to acknowledge and have a little moment of victory so that we could keep hope alive. And so we were aware of it. And so we celebrated with all the vim and vigor that we could. And so that was a good time. And we were forever thankful for the domestic response of all the military who came. And I just want to acknowledge all of the ones who went to prison. We tried to honor every one of them when they came out. And my niece, Red Fawn, is so positive and so incredible. Her attitude and her resilience and her happiness regarding today, her future, in spite of being in prison for 4 years. So I'm thankful for her life and the incredible things that she's doing and going to do. We're on a chosen path, and we continue to defend our place. We did a lawsuit in 2018 against Interior, so we'll be we will be able to respond to that shortly.
Now, Shannon, I have a question for you as the director. How long have you been working on this film, and what was entailed? And I like another question I have in regards to that is Wi-Fi, and how easy or how difficult was it for Wi-Fi out on the reservation? Because I know that a number of our reservations across Indian country, they're rural areas, and the internet is very spotty. And so I wanted to, find out, how long you've been involved with the film and your experience, all your experiences during that time.
So I've been with the film for more than 5 years now. And I followed the women for about 2.5 years between when I turned on the cameras and when I decided that I had to stop. You know, as you can tell by the film, by listening to Phyllis, there is so much amazing work that they're doing. And if it were up to me, I'd still be filming, just because it's fascinating. And I think these things do need to be documented. And at the same time, there was a whole contingent of people, Dakota Access Pipeline, Energy Transfer Partners, first and foremost, who did not want this story to be told. And so we had issues with signals being scrambled out at Standing Rock, with our cell phones not working, all kinds of resistance. And not just that, we were probably the only crew that I've heard of that did not have footage and or cameras seized. And really that's just because I had come from Latin America, from filming in a place where it's typical to get your footage seized. And so going out there, I was really mindful of taking every precaution necessary. And so we would film all day into the night, sometimes well into the night, and then we would go and back everything up, so that we would have multiple copies of things. And then we would have someone drive different cars, different people, driving about an hour to go and you know, send our footage by FedEx or UPS to our editor. And so, you know, it took a lot to get this film made. In the beginning, especially, there was just so much resistance. Hollywood is still an old boys club, and let's face it, it's an old white boys club, and topics like this are not foremost in their thoughts. And so it took a lot to get this made. And really, we crowdfunded in the beginning, and that got us our nice seed and got us out there a number of times to film. But then we actually had to go and appeal to another country, and that was Finland. I had a good relationship with Sophia Ehrenruth and others in Finland who I thought would believe in this struggle. And they actually got the Finnish Film Foundation involved, YLE, their national broadcaster, which is highly respected throughout the world for their documentary work, who got on board. And once they got on board, that made our job a little bit easier. We were really blessed to receive some grants. And, you know, we're still fundraising, because the reality is, no matter how good a film is, no matter how amazing the people are that are being profiled, it's going to mean nothing if it doesn't get out there. And so now our goal with it is to raise funds to have an impact campaign, because we want to see Phyllis out on the road again. Maybe Phyllis is tired after a lifetime of this, but I think she's a national treasure. And Phyllis and Pearl Daniel Means, my co-producer, who also appeared in the film, and other women of all ages who are in this, they need a platform. And so we always intended for this film to just be a convening tool, to open up a discussion, to open minds and hearts. And so I've, you know, been on it years, and yet I feel like my job in a way has just begun. And I really hope that this goes far. We're so excited that it's actually going to be airing in the US. We've already had some air dates on Fuse, and we've got additional broadcasters around the world who are slowly coming on board and, you know, broadcasting this, because it's all about awareness. I want people to know what has happened and what is still happening to the Native people of actually the world. I was going to say of the US, yes, but it's the world. It happens everywhere. You know, because of my work, I work, you know, I don't know, worked in more than 70 countries now, I guess. And this happens everywhere, that there are indigenous people who care about land that has resources that big business wants.
Well, water, it's just like gold, right? Water's like gold. And I was wondering, I believe there's also a website that individuals can go to. Is that correct?
Yeah, so you can go to, it's easiest just to go to endofthelinefilm.com, endofthelinefilm.com. We've also just started a nonprofit, so we can be raising funds directly through our own channels to be supporting work of the women of Standing Rock. But if you go to our film website, you're going to see you know, some of the actions that are taking place now, and you can see where you can view and even purchase this film, because I think you need to watch it more than once. You know, those of you who are watching this are probably, your minds are still probably blown, and I know it's an emotional process watching this film as well. And so I would encourage people to give it another watch, and if you couldn't make it through the first time because of the emotion involved, try again, keep trying. Especially for our women, it was tough for some of them to watch it, where they just said, oh, I got to come back to this. We actually did a group screening, and to me that was even more anxiety producing than having my investors or the broadcasters screen the film. I care most about what the people in this film and what their various tribal affiliation, what they think of it. And so I was relieved that they felt we captured it in a good way. And that's really due to their being willing to welcome us into their lives and into their work. And I know that was not easy. And that's because of Phyllis really telling them to share. You know, no one dares defy what Phyllis says. And we were so grateful for that, because without that, especially Washtewi, her daughter, would not have participated. And in the end, she was the one who let us into her life the most. And I can't imagine this film without her.
Well, you know, when you say to watch the film twice, I totally agree with you, because I watched it once and I'm planning on watching it again with my partner, and you know, like the portion of the film where they showed the vicious dogs in there, it was just like, I don't know, it really took me back. And then also seeing the young Native woman who was shot with rubber bullets, and she got hit in the eye and also in the leg, and you know, that was very heartfelt.
Absolutely. There were so
Yeah.
many amazing stories, and unfortunately so many that didn't even make it into the film. But that's another goal of mine, is to get all of those stories edited and out into the world. We could have easily made a series out of this if anyone would have been willing to purchase it, actually, broadcasters, distributors. I think there will come a time, and you know, we're going to preserve this footage as long as necessary. It's interesting because sometimes it just takes a tremendous amount of time. There are all of these examples of films, like I can remember hearing It's a Wonderful Life, which is always on over Christmas, right? That thing sat around for, I think it was decades, because no one wanted it. No one wanted to air it. They thought it was cheesy, corny, that it wasn't going to work. You know, and there are examples of archives, for instance. Now, if you watch the whole film and you go through to the credits, which are very long because of all of our amazing supporters who crowdfunded, you're going to hear some audio that was recorded in 1929. And this was audio that was held by a university, and that the university was just kind of going to discard it. And it found its way into our hands, and we were able to actually digitize it and to make it sound better, as it probably you know, did more when it was being recorded live. And that audio was actually recorded on Standing Rock. The archival footage of the powwows, of the men marching, that was from Standing Rock in the 1920s. So it's not like we just, you know, pulled out this, you know, acted footage that happened to be black and white. These are archives. And for me, for what I do, I think it's so crucial that we document people and stories while we can. And, we've got these treasures like Phyllis, though I don't think there's anyone quite like her. There are others who have been fighting the good fight for a long time. And especially when it's women, that is so often just ignored. And so, paying tribute to them through listening and getting it out there, I hope it becomes more important in the future. Maybe 100 years from now, someone will take this footage and digitize it somehow, and that it'll live on. That could be the most wonderful thing for me.
Well, I commend you and your team in terms of getting all that valuable footage and being able to be ahead of the game and be able to make sure that the footage was safe and that you were able to get it. And I'd like to ask you, Phyllis, what did you feel about October 27th, 2016, when there was the law enforcement raid and then the buffalo showed up? I'd like to hear what you have to say about that.
Well, there was a grandmother and a young man from California that were running with the buffalo. And I was horrified because I thought they would get stampeded, but they just hung in there, running with them. And we tried to give the young man recognition and a name honoring, but he left before we could do that. But we were going to call him the Buffalo Runner. And that's an incredible feeling when you see the buffalo running into the storm. When you see who they are and who we are and how we relate, that we do run into the storm. We are those people. We are Hunkwapa, and we are the horn of the buffalo. So we are the vanguard historically and in our genetic psyche. That's who we are. And we are Ihunktua Dakota. And that means the people on the edge. And so we are the ambassadors. So the two bands that are represented relate to those buffalo. And when they were coming, they were going straight for that law enforcement group. And unfortunately, they used a helicopter to knock that boy off a horse at that time and beat him viciously. But we have a lawsuit in 2018 as a treaty resource, our land. And so we go forward. We're in the midst waiting for results from the civil rights violations in federal court, of which was Staley and Chase and Koyak and different women who were really, really beaten at that time. So we also go forward now with damages to the land, damage to the people, and the physical harm, tiger swan and the dogs. We still are in the making for the court for that. So those are fleeting moments that you felt that exhilaration and that you had a reserve in, and it wasn't just your adrenaline flow on running on empty. It was an absolute exhilarating moment, fleeting as it may have been, but to see that running against a storm, that's who we are, and that's what they did for us that day.
I have another question for you, Phyllis. What does celebrate killing of the black snake mean?
I think in my concepts of life, that black snake has a life, but the Wakia Oyate are the greatest beings, the thunder beings that no one can fight against, and that's thunder, lightning, the clouds, the wind. And so when you have survival of the fittest, and we have had to live that for 500 years, you do what you have to do. And so that was a prophecy that that black snake was coming. And in our belief system, to attack our mother is ultimate sacrifice, that you protect your mother. And there's nothing like losing your mother. So Mother Earth is someone that we need. And our people, we have universal standards. We are a pluralistic society. And so having to fight that black snake that was forced out of Mother Earth, unnatural. And so we have our own beliefs, but it was a prophecy that we would have to kill that black snake. And that comes from within our cultural beliefs, and was something that we made reference to because of that. And Wakia Oyate, the wind, is female. She is the mischievous one. She abides by no one's except her own universal strength. And she represents a circle. And she's the circle in the hurricane and in climate change. And we have to adhere to her rule as mischievous and as strong and non-discriminating as the Wakia Oyate are. That's something that we have to all listen to and do something about.
Thank you. Shannon, in conclusion, would you like to share anything further about this great film that you've directed and produced?
I would actually like to defer my time to Phyllis. I thank everyone for getting this into your festival, for taking the time to welcome us, and for your support. It means a lot. You know, this has been a long struggle. Standing Rock and the film, I guess, too, and it means a lot to have people appreciate the hard work that happened in front of the cameras, especially, and also behind the cameras. So I'd like to defer to Phyllis here.
Phyllis, is there something that you would like to share with the audience in conclusion? And in addition to that, noted in the credits was dedication to Russell Means. Could you also speak to that, to Mr. Means, about this dedication?
Yes, I would. I would just first of all like to thank all of the people, big and small, and from every part of the Mother Earth, who came here with their weakness and their strength and found balance, and those who struggled with us, those who went to prison, those who went to jail. There were over 850 people here that went to jail, and that faced dehumanizing conditions, having numbers written on their arms, women who were stripped down, and the men who defended them, and put on buses, taken to jails, put in cages, the dehumanizing things that they had to suffer in our name. And I thank my own people. I thank the children, the little girl who turned to me in that walk that day going into a sacred stone. I don't want to die. I said, what did you say? I don't want to die. So to me, that was a pinch at my psyche and my heart because of the suicide that was happening and the hopelessness of our people. And this movie gave credence and gave strength to our people who struggled and survived. And we owe it to that little girl to create a world that she can live in and thrive in and not run on empty like we did in our lives. And I think that with that kind of message, I want to get in here that Standing Rock has enacted a resolution to amend NAGPRA. NAGPRA, the Native American Graves and Repatriation Act, which we are a founding tribe of because of the bodies that were floating when they built the dams here. And so we asked for an amendment to include the boarding schools. There are over 250 boarding schools that were here in the United States. And work has been ongoing before the publicity came about in Canada. So nine children were brought back from Carlisle. There are 750 Lakotas, Ocheti Shakoi, buried in Carlisle. And I have a grandfather, my grandfather's brother, Barney Pikenzigo, has been missing from Carlisle since 1907. So we have that amendment. We're promoting it for other nations to adopt it and seek congressional amendment to that NAGPRA. Standing Rock is a founding founder of the THPO, Tribal Historic Preservation Office. And there are over 300 now in Indian nations across this country. Founding tribe for the Indian Child Welfare Act, fighting aggressively to defend the little granddaughter right now in the courts. Thank you. Lila Wopila Tanka to all my own people, to my grandfathers, to my grandmothers, who had the tenacity, the strength, and the minding, and the heart for creating the laws that we have here at Standing Rock. We know who we are, Papa and Ihuntu. So I worked for Oglala Nation for 40 years. When they had Wounded Knee in 1973, Russell Means was the messenger. I met him many years before. I can now say this, that I worked for the State Department and Foreign Service in the United States government, and very proud. I worked for career ministers and ambassadors, and I love the opposite of, although I am a malcontent and fought aggressively to protect our homelands, for the diplomacy, who my teachers were, eminent professors and scholars and diplomats that were my teachers, and I thank them. And there was a sensitivity training one day, and there were three Indian men who were those trainers, and Russell Means was one of them. There was a Mohawk, and there was Omaha, Dennis Hastings, who is still alive and living, of those three. And Russell Means was one of those service trainers, and he told us, and there was like recruits, we were all recruited to go work in Washington, D.C. at the national level. And there were 50 of us sitting there, Indian women. And he told us we were the most beautiful people in the world. We were the most beautiful women in the world. And so when he passed away, there was that were in that class. And he said, she stood up, I stood up and told that story. She got up and she said, he told me I was the most beautiful. She's a Navajo lady. So we had a joke about that, we looked at each other and we're sisters, and we adopted each other. And but we met him at that time. And I always said that he stole me from the government, from the US government. I'm the person that got stolen back. And he did that a lot of times to people. And so I went to work for him in Cleveland, and we became Cleveland American Indian Claim. And he sued the Cleveland Indians in 1970 over the caricature, along with my Uga sister, Faye Yellow Eagle. And so there was just something on media yesterday about dropping the Indians' name. So I got a real emotional because our life struggle and the moments that we shared in doing things, the Trail of Broken Treaties, creating the American Indian religious freedom. We had to protest, we had to march, creating the Indian Child Welfare Act, creating the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs to have a liaison with the United States Congress. We did that. And I was writing the papers, and I have the White House papers when we marched, but some of those guys went to prison, Halderan and those guys. So I have the White House papers and evidence, all the partnerships that he created for us in life. And he was an intellectual. He was a methodical thinker. He was everything. And I loved my work with him. I owe it to him to come from a little scared Indian girl from Standing Rock to be fearless, what they called me, because I found out who I was. I never got rid of the rough energy, the rough edges and the raw energy. So I had to use those as tools, as well as my English language that I mastered. And I mastered the American system through some of the best teachers in this country. The senators, Inouye from Hawaii, came here, cried at Standing Rock, at Sitting Bull's grave. Just all of the lessons that I learned from Russell Means and working for him and being his sister. And so he was shot at Standing Rock in 1975. And it was right at that road on the Flag Boulevard, and shared that at the Sundance with his family, telling what he suffered. And then where do we go? He came from Wounded Knee. After Wounded Knee, he came and he was a messenger from the chiefs, wanted the International Indian Treaty Council. Standing Rock hosted it in June 20th, 1974, with two mandates: to go to the United Nations, which we did. I went to live in New York, got mugged, but lived there for 3 years. I helped get the credentials to do the Geneva Conference in 1977. Russell Means was a messenger for the chiefs. He did only what the chiefs, and we lived in an era of the last of the three thinkers of traditional chiefs from Oglala Nation. So incredible mentors that I had from the men, and they had their role and they fought for 40 years. So it was our obligation to follow up and light our council fire, call the spirits of all of them. Russell Means was there in spirit. Sitting Bull was there. Crazy Horse was there. All the men that were Itancha, that were chiefs, flag bearers, that were headmen, they were all at the camp. But it was our obligation as women to step up in line and sync with our universal standard, with the age of Aquarius, with everyone. The movement was a time of action. Lighting that fire meant time of decision making. No more talk, action. My life and my love, my dedication to my brother, Russell Means.
Well, thank you, Phyllis. We appreciate those words. And thank you, Shannon, as the director and producer of End of the Line, the Women of Standing Rock. And Haishka. And that means thank you in the Lummi language. And we would like to thank, on behalf of the Cascadia International Women's Film Festival Board, we would like to thank both of you for your time today, and thank you for sharing this film and your words and your great knowledge, and may we all move forward together in a good way.